right. We are live. I'll let TikTok notify the people, let people come in, and then we will get this party started. Brandy, how you doing today? We're going to have a good talk about homeschooling and teaching young children financial literacy, something I'm so passionate about. And quite frankly, it's a travesty that the school system doesn't teach people financial literacy. Muriel, how you doing today? We're going to have a very good talk about putting your children on a track so that they have a firm grasp on finances, what money is, how to make money, how to save money, how to invest money, and how to do all of those things. And you would say, well, you can't possibly start young children. Well, that's absolutely wrong. I start young children on a track to start learning financial literacy all the time with the families I work with in my private consultations, as well as members of my homeschool community. So it's so important that we get young children familiar with finances so that when they're 18 years old, they have an idea of what they're walking into, because for most children, they go through public school, they don't know the first thing about entrepreneurialism, they don't know the first thing about making money, they don't know the first thing about saving money, investing, and the only thing they think they can do is when they're 18 years old is they sign on the dotted line, they take out $200,000 worth of college debt. So you might have noticed my setting's a little different today. I drove across the country to visit my parents. So I'm staying at my parents' house for the week. But Classical Learner never sleeps. So I'll be here this week and streaming from a slightly different location than my house back in the Carolinas. So, all right, guys, let's get into it. Financial literacy for children. When should we start them? As early as humanly possible, because money, whether we like it or not, has a tremendous impact. You got that Benjamin Button disease, bro. All right, then. Does that mean I'm old? I'm an old soul? I've been told I have an old soul. What's up from Miami? How you doing, Miami? Talking about teaching children financial literacy. So, by the way, if you have any questions, you want to chime in at any time, any questions about homeschooling, whatever it might be, just jump in. I'm very interactive, and I'm happy to work with all of you. So, I usually start children with financial literacy as early as possible. So maybe 3 or 4 years of age. And it starts with the basic stuff. So, for example, and I'll get into the formal things that you can do, but when you have, I am bad with math and afraid I may not be able to teach him. Yeah, well, if you struggle with math, the basics are really easy, right? Like this morning, I was pushing my 3-year-old on a swing, and together we were just counting to 100 over and over again. He was loving it. So I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'd stop, and he'd do 10. And then I'd do 11 through 19, and I'd stop, and he would do 20. And he's 3 years old, and he could do math by twos. He could do 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 2 is 6. And really, we do that just from eating food, counting Cheerios. If he asks me for a snack, I'll say, oh, how many do you want? 5? And I'll give him 3. And I'll be like, oh, I only gave you 3. How many more should I give you? And he'll be like 1. And I'll say, oh, well, what's 3 plus 1? 4. So really, with early childhood math, just keep it fun, keep it simple. And then, with the older stuff, if you're not comfortable teaching it, there are programs like Time for Learning, which are completely child-led over the computer. They go at the child's pace. They can only advance when they reach a certain level of mastery. And then this way, you make sure you're never pushing them forward before they master that foundation that they could build on later on. Yes, I did that with my 6-year-old, and he's now dividing. Yeah, and there's also great games. My app, Homeschools Connected. Sorry, I don't have my computer in front of me, so I can't pull up all my stuff like usual. But I have board games, everything you need listed in order so that you can teach your children math in a fun way. Elementary school students, a book I love is Life of Fred. It's kind of that Charlotte Mason living history style. So I start children with financial literacy as young as possible, and you want to teach them basic math skills because obviously that helps with starting to teach them about money. So another thing I like to do with young children, I've done this with my boy from the time he was little, is a day never goes by in which I don't point out a way in which people earn a living. And I do this because I want him to see opportunities where others don't and understand the importance of what finances are. I will be buying, you give me ease. Yeah, well, like I said, if you want to join my homeschool community, I work one-on-one with all my families because your success is mine. But so we could be whatever it is. Maybe we go to the ice cream store, and I always make it a point to spring up conversations. And what you find is you're talking to the owner of these mom and pop shops a lot. So I'll start talking to them, and I'll say, "Oh, so this is your business?" And I'm doing that on purpose in front of my son, and I get my son involved in the conversation. And I say, "Oh, you see this nice man? He decided he wanted to sell ice cream, so he opened up this store, and now he makes ice cream. And me and you came here, and we're gonna give him money for this ice cream. And do you know that me and you, if we want, we could sell ice cream and we could make ice cream?" And then maybe later that day we'll do something fun, go back to the house with my wife, and we'll actually make the ice cream. And then from there, you just have fun with it. You say, why don't we send out a marketing advertisement to Grandma and Grandpa, let them know that you've made and you're selling ice cream, and Grandma and Grandpa come over and they pay them 5 cents for the ice cream that they made. And you just start to introduce financial literacy, introduce entrepreneurialism. Just wondering, what do you do for social interaction? Yeah, so socialization, when you homeschool, you have to treat it the same way you treat math, the same way you treat science. It's only a problem if you don't make it a priority. So make it a priority. So, for example, every Sunday, my son is part of a church group, basically a preschool classroom with 15, 20 other children. So he goes to that classroom. He has been in Brazilian jiu-jitsu since he was 3 years old. So he has all his friends in jiu-jitsu. I have weekly play dates, probably 2-3 play dates a week with other children. We go to the park 2 or 3 times a week. We're always out in town interacting with children and adults. When we go to restaurants, he's 3 years old. He places his own order. So social interaction is only a problem if you're sheltering your children. As long as you get them out into the world, then there shouldn't be a problem. So again, for all the people asking questions, where do I begin? Join my private homeschool group, or I post all my other streams on YouTube. I do have beginner streams, as well as I'm available for consultations if you check the link in my profile on TikTok. So socialization is only a problem if you don't make it a priority. So just make sure you make it a priority. Another example of that is, okay, so like I'm the homeschool guy, right? So this week, I'm not in my typical setting. I live in the Carolinas, but I wanted to visit my parents. So my family drove down across the country. We're in New York right now. And my son has been playing with his cousins all week, and they attend a homeschool preschool, so to speak, really a private school for kindergarten. And his cousins went to the school today. And he said to me, he was like, "Oh, I want to go where they're going." Well, I'm not going to fight that. So I'm going to talk to my sister and the school, and I'm going to see if my son could actually attend just for this week while we're in New York, just so he can do what his cousins do. So I'm always putting him in social situations. You just have to be creative and, do things a little bit outside the box. But I do as much as I can. Thank you so much. Me and my wife are scared raising a child in these times. You don't have to be scared. You don't have to do it alone. Like I said, if you want, full access to me, join my homeschool group. Or if you want just consultations, the link's in my profile. Or I do some serious formal consultations. But you got to check my website to see what those are about. Because those are, I basically make your whole homeschool for you. But anyway, so I always go out of my way to teach children financial literacy and talk about entrepreneurialism. I point out the owner of the ice cream shop. I point out the landscapers. I point out whoever we're with, where anytime someone's operating a business, I make sure that my children are aware that this is a person who maybe they purchased a little bit of equipment and now they knock on your door and say, I could provide this service, or they put up flyers, I could provide this service, and people pay them money. Just like when I make my videos, because my son always sees me making videos about my Cubs to Bears books, right? Or about my homeschooling, but he's more aware of my Cubs to Bears books. So I show him, look, Daddy makes these books, and now Daddy makes these videos, and I put them out into the world, and people see the videos, and then people send Daddy money for those books, right? So he's 3 years old, and he's very aware that people do things for money, and that I like to make him especially aware that you can do entrepreneurial things for money, right? Because financial literacy is, yes, there's the technical aspect of it, and we're going to get into that, but so much of it is about developing mindset. And you want to do that in children as young as possible. So every opportunity you get, just ask yourself, what am I doing to develop that mindset in them? Because when you think about the public school model, it's structured like a corporate workday for a reason. It's training children to be corporate workers, right? Do paperwork, be where you're told, when you're told to be there. You don't decide what work you're doing, but you do the work that a teacher or a corporate boss is telling you to do. And if the teacher or the corporate boss decides you did a good job, then you get an A or you get your salary. But for me personally, I want my children to be their own boss. So I go out of my way to develop that entrepreneurial mindset. Homeschooling for 3 years, pulled from public. That's amazing. Well, that's amazing that you did that. And anyone who's hesitant to begin homeschooling, just talk to the homeschool community. By the way, I'm going to be doing interviews now, 12 o'clock on this stream every day. I've been inboxing some really impressive homeschoolers, homeschool students, homeschool parents, homeschool teachers. So I'm going to be bringing that wisdom directly to you over the next week or two, and hopefully for years to come. I like this. So definitely check that out, because we're going to do some fun things. So let's say you have a 4-year-old now, and you want to introduce them to financial literacy, and you've been doing these mindset type things that I've already talked about. Well, how do we get into the technical stuff, right? Because a lot of financial literacy is like any other type of literacy. There's a technical aspect to it. Well, one program that I love, I wouldn't call it a program, but kind of $20 is Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace Jr. Because you could join local Facebook homeschool groups. Yes, I love that. By the way, in my private homeschool community, I do have an apparatus in which people could connect with other people in their state. It's in its beta phase, so it's not built out yet. But over time, that will be a very valuable aspect of what I'm trying to build for the homeschool community. So Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace Jr. is basically, it's like $20, comes like a board game. And basically what it does is it has a list of chores for your children, and then it has kind of a wallet, and your children do their daily chores, and based on a certain amount of points they earn, they actually earn money for those chores, and then they break the money up. The way it's set up, it teaches them to do it to earnings, savings, spending, and giving, which is important, right? Because it's teaching children the importance of helping others. Hello, my son will be 5 next year. I would like to homeschool. Where do I start? Well, I would say the best place to start would be joining my homeschool community, which is $10 a month. Or if you want like a full-out consultation, check the links in my profile, because I do consultations, as well as the link in my website. But yeah, I mean, just start simple, and I'd be happy to guide you through everything. Lolly, how you doing? You made a great video the other day. She made a video in which she took a previous video that I did and overlaid it with music and my books. It was really cool. And she's very talented. So Lolly, if you see her, Lolly112, you should all go to her page and follow her. By the way, if any of you have businesses or anything that you want to promote, always feel free to promote them through my platform. I believe in helping people, right? I want to empower you, and that empowers me. In fact, I might start an apparatus where you could promote your business directly through my thing. And I don't charge for that. I think it's something you help mom and pop businesses. It's important. It's how you build community. It's how you make us strong. Homeschool my 2 kiddies in Maine. Very cool. Bought your books. We're loving them. So I'm going to talk about one of my books here. But before I get to that, so Financial Peace Jr. teach children about working for money, saving money, and giving money, right? So you earn money, you save money, and you give money, which is very cool. And then from there, what I like to do is after they get Financial Peace Jr., I like the Investor Ninja, which is a really cool book. That one's not by me, but it teaches children, it introduces them to the basics of investing. So you could invest in all of the different things. You can invest in yourself in terms of building a business. You can invest in stock markets. You can invest in physical assets. But it introduces children to investing as a concept at a very young age, and it does it in a child-friendly language, which is something that I really like. So you introduce them to the concept of how to make money. You introduce them to entrepreneurship. You introduce them to investments. So you do that with Daily Living, what you're pointing out. You do that with Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace Jr. kit and the Investor Ninja book. And then what I like to do is I really enjoy learning through board games, right? What age are my books for? Probably 3 through 12. They're written for children, but they're actually very complex concepts. So for the older children, it's even better because it takes those complex concepts and makes them very simple. And I'll talk about how it does that in a moment. But the next thing I like to do is get children on a track in which they learn through board games, because there are really great games available. So the first thing I like to do, maybe 4 or 5 years old, is start children on weekly to bi-weekly games of Monopoly Junior. Now, when you do this, there are objectives in mind, right? So obviously math, right? And if you get them pre-ready with basic math skills, this helps. But Monopoly Junior is a little better because it's made for little kids. So instead of like hundreds, it's all just $1 bills. Very simple. So what you're trying to do with Monopoly Junior, and I've done a good job with this with my books, with teaching my child, is you're showing children that there's a difference between an asset and a liability, right? So what you're showing them is that when they're paying rent on the board game, that it's a liability because they are taking their money, and every time they land on a house, they have to give that money to you, right? So that's a liability for them. It's taking money out of their pocket. But when they own the little house, right, when they own a property and people land on that property, now you have to give them money. Something that brings money into their pocket is an asset. So the primary objective with Monopoly Junior is we're teaching them the difference between an asset and a liability. So now think about everything I've covered. We've taught them what entrepreneurialism is, right? We've taught them that people own businesses. We've taught them how to earn money as an employee through the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace Jr. kit. We taught them about saving money. We've taught them about giving money. We brought the Investor Ninja book to teach them about the basic concepts of different ways that you can invest your money. And these are very little children, 4 or 5 years old. We've introduced Monopoly Junior, and now they understand the difference between an asset and a liability. They understand the difference between an employee and a business owner, right? So these are very complex concepts that we're teaching to children at a young age. And I'm going to get into what we start to introduce children to in high school, because that's the real fun stuff, middle school, high school. But you want to give them the basics. So we introduce them to Monopoly Junior. We introduce them to, when they turn about now 8 years old, to Finance 101 for kids. And this is where we start to introduce them to saving, investing, and the concept of credit, and what credit is, and how credit could be used to your advantage, and how credit could destroy you, right? So now we're introducing children to 8 years old to the concept of credit. So now they understand the difference between an employee and a business owner. They understand the difference between an asset and a liability. They know how to earn money. They know how to save money. They know what credit is, right? And these are all things we've done before your child is 8 years old. Now, how many people do you know? How many people, all right, would you say most people, just give me yes or no. Yes or no, do most people who are adults understand these basic concepts? I just want to see what you say in terms of yes, no. No, no, nope. So, no, no. So all of the people, right? And this has been my life experience as well. The majority of adults don't understand these concepts, which is quite the indictment on the public school system, don't you think? I had to learn this when I had to teach myself this as an adult, right? I wasn't taught any of this stuff. I had to, started reading books and all. But I had to teach myself this concept as an adult. In fact, the TikTok I released earlier today, quite a fascinating stat. Did you know that 70% of professional basketball players file for bankruptcy within 5 years of retirement? Now, these are people that make millions of dollars a year, right? And they're filing for bankruptcy within 5 years of retiring. And sorry if it cut out there. You know who else files for bankruptcy 70% of the time within 5 years? Lottery winners. So what that tells me is public school fails to teach 70% of its students financial literacy. Or maybe 100% and 30% of the people are homeschooled and go to private schools. I don't know. That's an interesting theory. But it shows that we as parents have to step in and do something different. So after you introduce your children to Dave Ramsey Financial Peace Jr., the Investor Ninja, Monopoly Jr., Finance 101 for kids, then I want and cash. Oh, that's when I want you to introduce them. They have to understand all of these base concepts first. But around 8, 9, 10 years old, I want you to introduce your children to Cash Flow for Children, which is a board game by Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And Cash Flow for Children is meant to teach children about the rat race, the difference between being an employee and an entrepreneur, the difference between assets and liabilities, and how to actually read financial statements that are released by companies. Now, if you've ever invested in the stock market, right, most people they throw crap at the wall. But if you ever listen to someone like Warren Buffett, right, and I understand, I don't like these people, but if you don't think you can learn from Warren Buffett, you're a fool, right? I don't like Bill Gates, but if you don't think you can learn things from him, you're a fool. I don't like Mark Cuban, but if you don't think you can learn things from him, you're a fool. I don't like George Soros, right? Same concept. So what Warren Buffett would tell you about investing, right? The best investor, he always says you only need to make like 3 investments and you'll be rich, right? Why does he say that? Because what he's referring to is if you understand how to read the financial statements of companies, then you could make a determination by studying companies as to which companies are making sound financial decisions, right? Which companies aren't in crippling debt, right? What their PE ratios are, right? What their profit earning ratios are, right? You could understand these different concepts. You could say, okay, this is a solid company. I feel comfortable putting my money in these 3 companies, and then you get rich. That's what he's talking about. So Cash Flow for Children is designed to teach children, introduce these concepts, and begin to teach them how to read these financial documents, right? So that they could understand what a good company is versus what a bad company is, which will also help them in their companies later on. So the last book, and we're going to get back to cash flow, right? Because keep in mind, Cash Flow for Children. The last book I like for young children, shameless plug, is my own book, The Bear from Jekyll Island, which is designed to teach children how the banking system works. What is fiat currency? What is fractional reserve banking, right? For those of you not aware, fiat currency is basically money that's not backed by anything, right? So America used to be on the gold standard. right? Money was backed by gold. And then in the 1970s, America was taken off of the gold standard, which means money is backed, in theory, by nothing. It's actually backed by something called the petrodollar and the strength of the United States military. So basically, if anyone tries to buy oil in anything other than a US dollar, the United States military will come knocking on their door. So that's what your money's backed by the way. So it's not a good thing. But technically our currency is fiat currency. And the way the banking system works is fractional reserves. What are fractional reserves? Let's say you put $10 into a bank, right? You take $10 and say, I'm going to put that money into a savings account. The bank then legally can go lend out $100 to someone else. $100 they don't have. So they could say, I have $10 in the bank. They could essentially, they do this on computers, print $100 that didn't exist before, did not exist, and lend that out. And then when they lend that out, the people they lend the money to are paying back interest on that loan of money that didn't exist and the bank never had. Whoa! And that's when the light goes on and you say, holy crap, our entire economy is a gigantic Ponzi scheme. Where can I buy your books real quick? Yeah, so if you go to my TikTok profile and click on the link, you could find all of my books. And if you want to join my private homeschool community, you could click the link to that as well. Don't just join it. Use the promo code CONNECT because you get $5 off for using that promo code. But yeah, so that's the way our financial system works. By the way, just so all of you know what I do one-on-one consultations. You could schedule it through my website, in which I basically set up people's entire homeschool. So we do a one-on-one call. I ask you my plethora of questions. I then write up my full recommendation of how I would homeschool your child if they were my child. And then we do a second reconvene meeting where I set up your homeschool. And then other options available. If you go to the link in my TikTok profile, we could set up a one-time phone call where you'll get me for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I'll answer all your questions, tell you my advice. And then I also do where you could just ask me questions, or if you join my private homeschool community, I'll work one-on-one with you through my community, and that's the best way to get access to me. So those are the options of what I do. But most adults don't understand these concepts. They don't understand why our financial system is a Ponzi scheme. Now, is debt good or bad? Right now, I sold my house to get out of debt. I moved across the country, bought farmland with my New York. I took my New York money, brought it down south, bought farmland, got out of debt, right? When I was in New York, I was in debt because the houses here are crazy. So the prices are crazy. I don't believe in debt. I think in my opinion, I'm a Christian and I believe usury is one of the worst sins in the Bible, and I follow the Bible. I'm not going that route. There are other people who understand how the banking system works. That's why it's so important that the children understand this stuff, who use debt to their advantage. So, all right, can I talk politics here without everyone losing their minds just because it's an example that it's something you're all familiar with, but people don't understand because, well, the news is just crap and they don't want people to understand these concepts. So when Donald Trump was running for office in his 4 years, one of the big fights between the left and the right was his tax records, right? His financial records, right? And Trump didn't want to release his records, and the left wanted him to release his records. Why? Well, I knew that, because I understood the economics of it, that if Trump released his tax returns and his financial records, you would find out that Trump didn't pay taxes and he was in a tremendous amount of debt. So people that lack financial literacy would say, look at him, that idiot, right? So he didn't want to show that. People who understand how this stuff works would say, now obviously that's his financial situation, because that's how people at that level of finance get rich, right? Because they keep taking out loans from the bank and they pay the bank back in interest, which they're fine with because they're using that to buy physical assets. So you take out a loan and you buy a hotel, and he doesn't care that he's in debt because he has all these hotels and all of these people paying him money monthly. So he doesn't care that he has to pay back the bank, right? So then he gets in all of the money for the hotels, right? The money coming in monthly. He's paying back this debt, which he's using as a business write-off, so he's not paying taxes on it. He's personally getting rich. And then they say, oh, well, he's an idiot because he keeps filing for bankruptcy. Well, the reason he filed for bankruptcy, it's a little sleazy, but it's a business tactic. So people at that level, what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to build this hotel. So what he would do is you pay these contractors. You say, I'm going to hire you, and you lay my foundation, right? I'm going to hire you. Lolly, thank you so much. I really appreciate anytime you guys help me with this stuff financially. It helps what I do. It helps me make books. It helps me teach homeschooling. It helps me live outside the beast system. And I really devote my life to helping people. And anytime you help me do it. And like I said, if any of you have businesses and want to promote them, I think I'm going to be creating an apparatus in which I'll give you the opportunity to do that, and I will promote it free of charge. We need to get into the habit of helping one another and building each other's businesses, because that's how we get outside of the control of these people who are trying to make us prevent our ability to breathe and make us do medical things we don't want to do, and are just really bad people that are trying to make us do all this stuff. We got to help each other. So, so what business people like that do, I don't like this. I would never do this. I think it's sleazy. So you hire contractors, they build your hotel, and then you put it on a credit card, and then you just file for bankruptcy and you don't have to pay them. That's what that's about. So, but the news will talk about these things and say, look, bad man, or, the person who's doing it will say, no, there's nothing to see here. But none of them want you to understand the concept of what's actually happening, because it won't look good for either side, because they understand that this is how they've structured the system to work, right? Not good. The system's not good, and the fact that people abuse it in that way, I would never do that to someone. If I tell you I'll pay you money for a job, you do the job, I'm going to pay you for it, right? Right? So, but again, I'm a Christian. It's the same reason I don't do the debt thing, because it's against my personal system of morality. I believe if I follow Jesus, my life will be better. So although I'm very fallen, I do my best to follow Jesus Christ. So, that room looks like it smells like hot Cheetos. I'm not in a room. I'm outside. It doesn't smell like hot Cheetos. Anyway. All right, so we just covered financial literacy for children. By the way, smash the like button. It really helps me. Likes, comments, they really help this go out to other people. If you miss any of my streams, I post them. Oh, I just remembered. I forgot to post it today. I post everything on a 1-day delay on YouTube, Classical Learner, so you could check it out there. So the links to all my stuff are in my TikTok profile. All right, so once we introduce children to financial literacy, and let me just do a quick rundown for those of you who missed it. We're pointing out entrepreneurship to children. We're doing basic numbers, basic counting with them. We introduce them to Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace Jr. to teach them about earning money, saving money, and giving money. We introduce them to the Investor Ninja, which introduces 4-year-olds to the concept of what investing your money is. We start them on bi-weekly games of Monopoly Junior to teach them the difference between an asset and a liability. We introduce the Bear from Jekyll Island to teach them about banking. We introduce Finance 101, which teaches 8-year-olds about credit and credit scores. We introduce Cash Flow for Children, which teaches children all of the above and how to read financial statements. And they're 8 years old. And you've done all that, and your 8-year-old has better financial literacy than probably 90% of the public at that point. print-free curriculum. Yeah, there are ABC Jesus Loves Me, easy peasy, all-in-one. Homeschool are free homeschool curriculums. And if you join my private homeschool community, shameless plug, for $10 a month, you can see how many opportunities are available to you. And I personally will try to make sure that you are a success. How do I feel about the Tuttle Twins book? Love them. Love them, love them, love them. Tuttle Twins do great things. I actually was, when I started writing Cubs to Bears, I was actually approached by one of their writers who said they loved what I was doing, and I developed a little relationship with them, and although we don't have a business relationship, I just love what they do. I love Tuttle Twins, and they're actually making a cartoon right now for children that teaches them about governance and financial literacy. So I really love Tuttle Twins, and I have so much respect for them because, I mean, honestly, they walk a lot of the same path that I've walked, and I know what that path is about. I know that going against the system is not easy. I know that doing things differently brings you ridicule, and I know that people that give us that ridicule can shove it straight up the Rock says. Okay, so that's an introduction to financial literacy for young children. It's more affordable than you think. The worst thing you can buy is an expensive curriculum. Yeah, I mean, I help people. That's what I do. I help people homeschool for cheap because you don't need expensive curriculum. All right, so now let's talk about middle school, high school. So we started out with Monopoly Junior. Yeah, there's pre-K curriculum. Start out with ABC Jesus Loves Me, and then set up your homeschool so that it's like a Montessori. So you could set up your school. So there's the art station, music station, building station, car station, all different things so that your children could kind of learn as they play. And then you could introduce some basic formal stuff, some pre-writing, fine motor skills, that type of thing. Did homeschool before, burned out, but now I'm considering putting them in public school. Yeah, well, so many people, they lack guidance, so they don't know how to go about it, but that's what I do. I'm doing a consultation probably later this week with a family, a full consultation. I meet with them, then I write up my full recommendations. I meet with them again. You can schedule that with me on your website, in which they were just burnt out and their child's a little, I guess, hyper, and they don't quite know how to handle it, but I can help them with that. So, yeah, get back into it. Just do things differently. The best teacher is experience. And just like parenting, homeschools, it's hard sometimes. You just got to adjust and seek guidance where you can get it. And from there, you can do really good things. All right, so now your children are the ripe age of 8 years old, 9, 10 years old, and they're more financially illiterate than 90% of the country, because we got them on a good track. Now we got to start getting them ready for, to really crush by the time they're 18 years old. So we introduced them when they were little to Monopoly Junior. We introduced them to Cash Flow for Children. Now I want you to just keep it fun, maybe once a month, maybe bi-weekly, depends how much your family likes it, how much they like it. Start having a bi-weekly, monthly game of Monopoly. And again, you are teaching the concept. This is the important thing. We are teaching the concept of the difference between assets and liabilities. When you own a house, people pay you rent monthly. Money coming into you is an asset. If you are renting or you're paying a mortgage, that money going out to you is a liability. I know people will argue that point with me. But if you're paying a mortgage, it's really an asset because the house is appreciating. Well, that's if it appreciates, but it always appreciates. It always does until it doesn't, right? And the fact that it's taking money out of your pocket monthly. So let's say you have a mortgage that's $2,000 a month, right? Well, that's $2,000 a month that you can't invest into your retirement, into a Roth IRA or a 401k. That's $2,000 a month that you can't invest into a business. So that is a liability. Now, it might appreciate, but in my definition, that's liability. You want to teach your kids different, tell them different, but that's what I would tell them. So we teach them the difference between an asset and a liability. Yeah, I mean, listen, you're paying a lease agreement. We all do what we can. There's also, have you approached them about leasing to buy? Because there's an option that people don't know about where you can, it's essentially paying rent to buy, right? So you could see if they're open to that, but you'd have to pay them more a month. Then, hey, if that's what you want, you could structure it that way. But so we want to start introducing monthly games in Monopoly. And we're teaching the difference between an asset and liability. And once they graduate from that and they really understand that concept, because we started them on Monopoly Junior, now we're on Monopoly, then we got them into Cash Flow for Kids by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Then I want you to get them into Cash Flow, which is for adults. They say ages 12 plus. It's a little complex. You have to do it with them, and you're going to have to learn it yourself. But it really teaches young people how to read financial statements, the difference between assets and liabilities, how to get out of the rat race, the difference between being an employee and an entrepreneur. So we do Monopoly, we do Cash Flow, and then we start to introduce them to reading. So books I love are Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which was probably written 100 years ago, which is a great introduction. He worked directly with, I haven't read it in a while. I think it was Andrew Carnegie. He was his right-hand man. And he wrote what Carnegie did and the difference between being an employee and being an entrepreneur and how to go about setting up a business, starting small, setting up business systems, which is so important, and then building that business out. So Think and Grow Rich, probably 8th, 9th grade, I want them to read that. The 4-Hour Work Week, which again is the difference between being an employee and an entrepreneur, and how to set up business systems, right? So that you don't have such a demand so that you have to do everything, right? So like as I've built out my business, I have systems, right? You sign up for my homeschool community. It's an automatic sign up. I don't have to sign you up, right? So then if you want to set up a consultation, you could click the link in my profile. You could set up a consultation with me through that link. So you want to set up business systems so you don't have such a demand on yourself. And it's also like the 4-Hour Work Week's really cool because it's all designed to really teach people how to earn a living owning their own business, but without having to work 80 hours a week so that they could do other cool things. What kind of stuff do you recommend for a 6th grader? So earlier this stream, I covered all early childhood financial literacy. I'm going to post this tomorrow or within the next few days on my Classical Learner YouTube channel because I post everything on a delay on that channel. So you can go back and watch it. So Think and Grow Rich, the 4-Hour Work Week, and then Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, which is all about getting into real estate, owning real estate, being an employer and not an entrepreneur, and the difference between an asset and a liability, right? You own a business, that's an asset. You own a home and people pay you rent, that's an asset. You own dividend stocks, right? In which a dividend stock, let's say Coca-Cola is a dividend stock. Don't like their company, don't invest in them because I don't like them, but I probably should for money reasons. But so if you invest in Coca-Cola, you buy into a share of their company. Now they're a dividend-paying company. What does that mean? So 3 times a year, quarterly, depending on how many shares you have, they actually pay you dividend. They pay you actual money. So it's not just the stock price. They're paying you profit from their company 4 times a year. That's a dividend. That's an asset because it brings money directly into you. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, just, be aware, tell your children that they are trying to upsell you and basically get you to go to their real estate college. You don't have to do that, but you do want to understand the concepts in the book because they're very important with setting you up. How does this work? Just happened to jump on and I tried to message you, but it won't let me send. Yeah, well, now TikTok made it where I have to be following someone and they have to be following me. They changed it. But you could message me directly on the link in my profile, and I could set up a basic consultation. I have multiple forms of consultations. Or if you want the big shabazz, go to my website, classicallearner.com, and I do, like I said, I set up your whole homeschool basically. But that, that's a lot of work for me. That's $250. If you want something cheaper, just go to the link in my profile, basic consultations, or join my homeschool group. I feel like it's rare to see homeschooling dads. Is there any hope to get disconnected dad engaged? I'd have to know more about your situation. I mean, I'd be happy to talk to him about homeschooling and what it can do for his children and how he can get involved. So, like, here's an example of something I love. So let's say disconnected dad is really, let's say he owns a construction company or works construction. Well, maybe he doesn't want to do the math or the science or whatever it might be, but what he could do is you can get him certain books designed to teach children basic construction, and then maybe once a week he could sit down with his children, right? Sit down with your child and actually build things out and teach them the skill of construction, which gets into the most important part of financial literacy that you could implement within your homeschool. Experience is the best teacher. And that's why unschooling is so powerful. So if your child was learning construction skills with dad once a week, that's a form of unschooling, right? But what it's doing is it's teaching your child real world skills. So they're learning the skill of building things with their hands. And then what I would have you do is once dad, now he's engaged, he taught your child a real world skill, he's more into this homeschooling thing. Now we say, okay, dad, here's our next step. We are going to guide little Matthew, right? We're going to guide little Matthew to start a little construction business. Now that could be building garden boxes. That could be building birdhouses and selling them over the internet. That could be offering his services to fix things at neighbors' houses or whatever it might be. But you're teaching him, right? Now we've taught him, I just ordered Brave Learner and the Read Around Fam. I'm actually not familiar with that. I'm going to screenshot this and look into that. So that's now you're teaching him entrepreneurialism. So your child, little Matthew, since he was 4 years old, you were teaching him financial literacy, right? He's done Financial Peace Junior. He read The Investor Ninja. He played Monopoly Junior since he was a child. He read The Bear from Jekyll Island. He understands the banking system. He read Finance 101 when he was 8 years old. He understands credit. He played Cash Flow for Children. He played Cash Flow for Adults. He played Monopoly for Adults. He read Think and Grow Rich. He read The 4-Hour Work Week. He read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And now he's doing business things and earning money, and he understands how to invest it, how to set up business systems, and you're getting him just ordered all 4 books. Can't wait. Love to hear this. Now he's doing business things, right? Because you taught him the skill of construction, and now he's starting somewhat of a construction business or a woodworking business. People are paying him money. He's building out the business. He's investing it. And you'd be surprised if he does it right. Like, I was talking to a dad a week or two ago who his objective now is to teach his boy how to set up a landscaping business while all the other children do summer jobs. He wants his son to spend his high school years from 9th grade on building a real full-time landscaping business. He homeschools. And when his son is 18 years old, his objective is to have it where his son sets the business up so it's successful enough that he could sell that business for $200,000 at 18 years old. Boom! And now imagine that child understands real estate and could buy real estate and get rental properties. Imagine someone thinking public school is superior to homeschooling. It's so funny. And the last thing that I would have children get involved into is there's a program called Next Generation Personal Finance, which is something they could start in high school. It teaches them all these things: earning, saving, credit, investing, the stock market. Oh, the stock market. I forgot to cover the stock market. There's a book called Teaching Stock Market to Kids. I think that's what it's called. I really like. And there are programs. I don't have my homeschools connected in front of me right now because I'm not at my house. So I don't have the computer. But there are also programs available designed for like mock stock market trading that I think children should start really in 9th grade, trading fake money. And then when they're ready and they've proven they could actually pull a profit and they understand the stock market, they understand what a mutual fund is, they understand what a stock is, large cap, small cap, medium cap, and a dividend, right? They understand these concepts. Now they're 18 years old. They just sold their landscaping business for $200,000. They're buying real estate and they can invest their money. Which, by the way, just also came to my mind, something people aren't familiar with. But if you've ever heard, this is not financial advice. I am not an investor. I'm not giving you financial advice. But I personally have had UTMA accounts for my children from the time they were from the time they were 0. And an UTMA account is basically it's basically a trust account. I mean, it's not a perfect definition, but it works the same way a Roth IRA would work for you, right? So you would put that money into your child's UTMA account when they're 0 years old, and then every birthday, every Christmas, you just invest a little more every year, and that money earns interest. They can't touch it until they're 21 years old. For 21 years, they've had money in there earning interest. So now when they're 21 years old and they have this financial literacy and they've been doing entrepreneurial things, they have this large sum of money coming into them now to help them get into real estate, start a business, whatever it might be. Everyone should be doing that. There's an UTMA account. UTMA, UTMA. I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not giving financial advice, but that's what I do personally. But, and then the beautiful thing is when you give them this financial education, they understand like what a Roth IRA is when they're 18 years old, and they could start investing into a Roth IRA when they're 18 years old. And if they do that, there's no question that by the time they're 65 years old, they're going to have, again, I'm not financial advice, but if it's done right, what people typically do, if they start investing at 18, they wound up having millions of dollars in their account by the time they retire. Just from that, $6,000 a year. So, all very powerful concepts. Our kids have a trust account. New message. I get that message notification, but I don't know how to read it. All right. Our kids have a trust account. They should have over $30,000 at 18. That's amazing. And it's not that hard to do that. You don't need to, what is this little thing in the corner? Add host. I got to figure this out because there's like a little infinity sign in the corner and it keeps saying you have one new message. And I don't know if that's someone, I don't know what that is. Does anyone know what that is? You need a podcast. Your brain is something to be picked. Well, this is my podcast. Every day now at 12 noon, I'm talking about homeschooling or freedom or whatever I'm going to talk about because all of it relates to raising our children. That's our plan, to pull it out of a trust, put it in a Roth IRA. Okay, so yeah, that's also my plan for my children. Now I'll be advising my children because they'll have autonomy. But my thoughts on crypto, I don't know if I should give them. They might not be popular because the Bitcoin community gets fired up. But I'll give you them. All right, so my thoughts on Bitcoin. And you know what? I'll do a whole stream on Bitcoin another day. I'll do a stream on Bitcoin and my thoughts. Because that's a whole nother topic. All right, I'll do that another day. Hello from California, homeschooling mama. I'll be embedding financial education to them in birth. All right, so I covered a lot here. And, you know, if you guys could, I'm going to post this in the next few days on my YouTube channel. If you guys could share this on your social media from my YouTube channel in the next few days, I'd really appreciate that.